Okay, we're now on resolving concerns. I have up here about 7 different concerns. According to Brian Tracy, every product that you sell has around 6, he calls it the law of 6, 6 major concerns that every product that you sell, regardless of what it is going to have. And our job as salesmen is that we need to understand what those concerns are before you ever go and talk to anybody. The reason for that is because if you can get good at understanding what the concerns are going to be before you even go to a door, someone's going to give you a concern and you're going to say, thank you for asking that. I've already got a response planned, a planned bulletproof response to overcome that concern, and not just overcome it, but use it to make a sell. And this is what I mean. During the contacting section, we talked about the importance of finding out the key concerns and key benefits. And we brought up this scale. Over here, if we have concerns, and over here you have benefits. And your job as a salesman is to uncover these concerns. Obviously, if a person says, you know, what about weather? I need to talk to my spouse. I need to, what about a particular channel or the price or whatever the concern is? You can simply take, if you're looking at these scales and it was tipped in the favor of concerns versus benefits, or if you look at it like, as we talked about this before, this person sees nothing but the fear of loss. They're afraid of losing something, money, a channel, comfort, their comfort level, whatever it is. And then their desire for gain is right here, what they want to get from this. They have an opportunity. Your job is to either start to chip away at this and make it smaller, that's an option, or to remove these things, just to throw them away. A more effective approach to this is not just to chip away, but to add to. In other words, you can take these very concerns, not just throw them away, but to move them over here. In other words, make their concern a reason for buying instead of a reason for not making a buying decision. And so you can say, well, if they say, you know, the weather, what about the weather? Does it go out in bad weather? Actually, it's more reliable than cable. And so you move that over here as a reason to buy, and you'll start to see with individuals, when you start to work with them, you'll see the scales start to tip. And when those scales start to tip, you can see their posture change, their body language change. They'll look at their spouse and say, what do you think? Or something like that. There's a lot of different buying signs that they're going to start to have. When you've done your job in removing the fear, increasing the gain, or the desire for gain, you're going to start to recognize their change in body, like I said, in body language. Anyway, so what I've done is I've just come up with basically the 6 or 7 most common concerns that you hear most of the time. I've also ranked these, basically the internet is the most difficult to overcome, but it's definitely overcomable, and most of it's just educating the customer on what their options are. And so let me just go ahead and start with that. But with the internet, most of the time what happens is, if you're talking to someone and you're going to say, what would keep you from getting a satellite dish? Well, one thing they may say is, right now I have my internet bundled with my cable, so I get a discount. And basically, for the most part, the discounts look something like $10. They get $5 off of their internet service. They get $5 off of their cable service. And so it's something that some people, especially those that are solely concerned about price and keeping the price low, they're not interested in the DVR or something like that, then they're going to tell you something along those lines, like, that isn't going to be worth it for me because I already have this with cable. What they don't know, however, is that you can actually split those services up. They can keep their internet with their cable company and use us for their TV watching experience. And most people don't know that they even have the option to do that. So first of all, just letting them know of the option. Then if they understand their option, but then they say, yeah, but I get the price break, make sure that you say, well, you're only getting a $5 discount on your internet, so the price is only going to be a $5 difference. But then it gets into the price, then it becomes more of a price thing than the internet bundle. Once they understand that this bundle doesn't have to happen, they're not going to lose their internet, they're just going to use cable for their internet and use us for their TV, that's an option. But then most of the time it comes into price, the monthly cost of the service. Fine, but as long as you can erase that and move it over here. Another thing about the internet that is difficult is it is very difficult to change this for a reason, from a reason not to buy to a reason to buy. Most of the time it's just simply taking it off of the concern side of the scale, or literally chipping away at the fear of loss. So let them know that they're not going to lose anything. They are still going to get this, and their price, they may lose a little bit as far as that goes. But hopefully your job is to increase their desire for gain. So even if they're going to lose something, they still see that it's worth whatever price that they're paying to get that. So that's your job. So that's basically how I overcome the internet concern. Most of the time, you just kind of got to understand that sometimes they are going to pay a little bit more, or sometimes they're not. Whatever they're going to pay extra in internet fees, sometimes the difference in cost with the dish will save them enough money to where they'll want to make that decision, where it's going to make sense financially and as far as them not losing a product that they'd like to use, like the internet. Also, make sure that you use empathy. Don't ever criticize somebody's concern. And when I say empathy, what I mean is a really easy way to remember how to show empathy. Feel, felt, found. Basically, all this means is that I know how you feel. Your neighbor felt the same way. What they found was, I know how you feel about the internet. I felt the same way. In fact, at my home, I have the internet with cable, and I have this for and I have satellite TV for my television. And when people hear that, they go, really? And last year, and when I was selling in our office, we literally had a dish for our TV, and we used Comcast for our internet service to get high-speed internet. Another option that you want to give the person, other than just keeping with Comcast or the original cable provider for their internet, is that the phone company wants their business as well. And most of the time, their phone company, like SBC, they have an internet product. It's a little bit dependent upon area, like where they may be as far as they're in relation to the nearest phone station, but they can still get internet through different sources, which is normally less expensive than cable also. So that's another option. Make sure you educate them on all of their options, and make sure also that when you're empathetic, you're not going to have a person make a decision that's going to hurt them. You want to become a consultant more than a salesman. You want to consult them in the decision, help them see, again, the desire for gain, help them see the benefits versus concerns, and then if you've done your job correctly, they will or won't get it, and you'll feel fine either way, because you don't want to harm that customer. As far as price goes, some things about price that you want to get good at is make sure that when you're talking to somebody that, like let's say you're going to save them money, an easy way to help them understand that they're going to save more, like let's say, just to be easy about this, let's say there's a person where they're going to spend about $30 with you, they're spending about $40 with cable. Instead of saying, I'm going to save you $10 a month, say, I'm going to save you 25% per month. It's a larger number. It's the exact same reason why some commercials like insurance, they say, we'll save you up to 15% on your insurance bill. Well, 15%, I mean, let's say the bill's, $100 a month. So are they going to say, well, that doesn't actually work, but like let's say it's $50 a month, and the amount that they're going to save you is $5 a month. What are they going to say? You're going to save $5, or we're going to save you 10%. So get in the habit of quoting percentages when the bigger number in savings helps. Now, let's say that the price that let's say they're going to pay $10 more with you per month. When that's the case, you want to take it down to a daily rate. So let's $10 more a month over a 30-day period. You're just going to tell them, look, it's only going to cost you an additional, what is that? 30 cents a day. Or, wait a minute, what is that? 30 cents, yeah, 30 cents, about 30 cents a day. Can I start over on that one? Let's go ahead and take that out. I don't care. We can leave it for all I care. What is that? That's about $9. What is that, actually?
What is the question?
The question is, we should probably leave this in. If a person is saving $10 a month, how much is that per day? 30 cents?
Something like that.
Yeah. Okay, so they're going to save about 30 cents a day. So if that's the case, so with price, With a monthly thing, make sure that if it's in your favor, make sure that you're bringing up the percentage to make it seem higher. When it comes down to where it's not in your favor, make sure that you bring up the daily cost, the pennies per day, so that they understand that it's a really good deal, and that's really not the fear of loss. They really don't have that much to lose compared to what we have to give them to gain. And finally, with channel arrangement, the reason I have this with prices, a lot of times the monthly cost is determined by which channels they want. And so I brought this up before, but if someone wanted to get Hallmark and they're used to paying a top 60 price, and then Hallmark happens to be in the top 180, then they've got to be willing to what are some other benefits to the product that are going to make them want to make this buying decision, other than just the one channel there. You might want to point out the other things, increase the value, not just by a dollar amount, but okay, yes, it's going to cost you a few cents more per day, but look at what you're going to get. And that's where the DVR becomes a huge selling point. You know, when you talk to someone and they say, you know, it's going to cost me an additional 30 cents a day to get this product. Yes, but would it be worth 30 cents a day to you to be able to pause TV, skip commercials? You start to build value against what they're normally you know, what they don't have right now. Okay, as far as weather, this is a really good common concern, because this is something that everyone kind of thinks that's going to be the case. The point is, though, is that cable, compared to cable, satellite TV is actually much more reliable, and this can be a reason that you can move over to this benefit side versus concerns that's going to give a person a reason to buy this. Now, the reason this is the case is because with cable, it's miles and miles of cable that eventually gets to a cable station, and there's a satellite dish. They use the exact same technology as we do. However, with us, if the installation's done correctly, then you have 100 feet of cable instead of miles. That's why the picture quality is better. That's why it is more reliable, because it doesn't have to go through the same cable that maybe someone down the street has a problem with their cable and then affects yours. There's a lot of different reasons why satellite TV is much more reliable than cable. However, one thing that you've got to be aware of is just make sure that when you're talking to them, you use a principle called if-then. They give you the concern, make sure that you restate the concern. So they give you this and you say, so let me understand, if I understand you right, the only reason that you haven't got a satellite dish is because you're concerned about its reliability and weather. Is that right? They say yes to that. Is there anything else that would keep you from getting a satellite dish? Is there anything else? No, there's not. Okay, well then let me address this. And then when you address this, just say, you know, one of the biggest reasons people get a satellite dish is because it is more reliable than cable and weather. And you're absolutely telling the person the truth if the installation is done right. That's why we want to hire good, solid technicians that do a good job. So they give you that concern. Then you just move it over here and say one of the biggest reasons people get a satellite dish is because it is this, or if, it's called the if-then principle. If weather was not an issue, then would you want to get a satellite dish? If it was more reliable than cable in weather, then would you want to? And if you and if they say, well, yeah, if it was, and then you can start educating the customer like we talked about before, making sure that the installation is done right, that the dish is pointed in the right direction, as far as it's got a high signal strength and so forth, we're going to send out a really good installer to make sure that you're taken care of. And then you can even say, in fact, if I were to get my best installer for you, then would you want to do that if we could get you, make sure that your installation was done right? And they say, well, yeah, I could do that. So make sure that you use the if-then principle of moving something to the other side of the scale. Okay, as far as think about it, this is the exact same concern. I'm going to add on here spouse approval. They're almost the same thing, and most of the time it's a smokescreen. In other words, it's just something they throw up because they don't know what else to tell you. And so when you're talking to someone and they say, you know, it sounds pretty good, but I'm going to need to talk to my spouse before I can make a decision. Or, yeah, that sounds good. Would you mind if I think about it? Now, sometimes people genuinely need to think about it. You need to obviously show empathy and say, hey, I know how you feel. A neighbor down the street felt the same way, and this is what we found. And come up with a solution that's going to help them be happy, and you be happy. And so what you want to do is when you're talking to the customer, and they say, in particular, I want to think about it. These are the steps that I use to overcome that concern. This is by far my favorite concern to overcome because it always leads to a close. And this is how I do it. I know how you feel. I like to give my customers time to think about it. In fact, normally what I do is I set up an installation appointment for a day or two from now and give you guys a couple days to think about it. And if for some reason you don't want to get a DVR and save money, you just give me a call. Would that be okay? Make sure that you add that last part on there. Would that be all right? At that point, they're going to say, well, I guess that's okay. Or they're going to say, I don't know, I just need to think about it. You go, like I said, I actually want you to think about this. I want to give you 24 to 48 hours to think about it. Would it be okay if we set up something for a day or so out? And if you can think of any reason in the world why you wouldn't want to get this, then just give me a call on my cell phone. Is that all right? At that point, they're going to go, well, okay, that's fine. Now, normally, with the think about it in particular, what happens is that you're going to go, okay, well, what's your name? And you start to fill out the contract. At that point, you start to fill out the contract. You just, slide this to the back of the binder and start to fill this out. As you fill this out, they're going to ask you, well, do you get this channel? Do you get that channel? And you just hand them this, and I've seen people just take the binder and just start to look it over and go, oh, you do get this channel. Oh, you do get that. Or they're going to say, you get this? I don't even get this on my cable. And they start to scour over this while you're filling out the paperwork. And you start to recognize things like they're excited about CMT or some other channel that cable doesn't give them in that particular area. And when that happens, then as you're filling out the paperwork, by the time you fill out this contract, they've asked you plenty of questions. Like you're going through and then all of a sudden they go, oh, where are you going to install this? And you're like, well, this is where we normally put it. And they're like, okay. And then they're going to ask you, well, what about this? They'll give you some more concerns. Most of them are up here. They're going to start to give you those exact same concerns, and you're overcoming the concerns. And like I said, by the time they actually fill out the paperwork, at that point, just to make sure that they're firm, I will actually say, hey, I've got an installer in the area. Would it be okay if I had him come by in an hour or two? And most of the time they say, yeah, that would be fine. And them needing that extra day or two just evaporated. They don't need that anymore. And so then you can call up an installer and say, can you get here? And they say, whether or not they say yes or no, let's say they say, I can't get it till the next day, and say, I'm sorry, he's slammed. Can I have him come by the next day? They're like, fine, but you know that this is no longer a tentative sell. In other words, you use the tentative way of resolving a concern to get them to accept the idea of, okay, I'll go along with this because I have an option to back out if there's something wrong. As long as they know that, fine. But then, as you start going through filling out the paperwork, that sell becomes more solid, more concrete, and eventually then they're comfortable with the decision that they've made. Same thing with spouse approval. Normally this follows, and you need to remember the order of these questions because it helps you overcome this. First of all, most of the time it's going to be to a wife during the day when the husband's at work. If that's the case, I just say, hey, what do you think he'd say? I know how you feel. My wife felt the same way. Just curious. What do you think he would say? Show empathy. Sincerely want to know. When they say, oh, he'll probably say yes. That's normally, or they're gonna say he'll probably say yes, or they'll say, well, I just don't know. Either way, I'd say, well, great. I know if I got a satellite dish with TiVo, I'd be very, very happy about that. And I say, normally what I do is I set up an appointment for, same thing, set up an appointment for tomorrow or the next day. Give you an opportunity to show your spouse this. In fact, I'll leave you with a flyer with all the information. And if he can think of any reason why he wouldn't want to get a DVR and save money, you just give me a call. Would that be okay? Same exact principle, but you're basically giving them the time to make that decision. Now, sometimes they're just going to say, no, I can't do it, or I need time to think about it. I'm not going to make a decision right now. I just need some time. I've made the mistake in the past of assuming that meant they needed a day or two, and then you never get back to that customer. Whenever they say, you know what, I'm not going to make a decision right now, I just need a little bit of time to think about it. At that point, the appropriate response is, that's fine. I know how you feel. In fact, one of your neighbors felt the same way. Would you mind if I did something? I'm on this street here for the next 20 minutes. Would it be okay if I just finished up with this street and came back in about 20, 30 minutes and talked to you? And most of the time, during that 20 or 30 minutes, they're going to call their spouse, or they're going to think about it. And what happens is people, they will, the time that they give a task expands to the amount of time given. And so if they say, I mean, exactly how how long is a person actually going to need to think about getting a satellite dish? I mean, do they mull over it for hours? No. Normally they just don't want you to be sitting there looking at them while they're trying to make a decision. And so what you do is you just leave them alone for 10, 15, 20 minutes. And if they have 10 or 15 or 20 minutes and they know you're coming back, then they will call their spouse and talk to them about it. Or they will, they'll look over the information, find out that they get the exact same channels. They start to, their fear of loss starts going away because they no longer fear losing anything. And so as a result, what happens is you come back and then you can ask them to make a buying decision. You come back, they go, yeah, I think I want to get it. Now what if they say, no, we don't want to get it? What do? Why? Why did you decide against it? And guess what? They're going to give you one of these concerns. And then you overcome that. And so you're going to find out the concerns, do your best to overcome it, try to move it to this side of the scale. And then if it doesn't work, they're going to say no, and you're going to find out again. You know, find the concerns and try to overcome them. There's something deeper that's come up other than the spouse approval or thinking about it. There's something else that they thought about that you have to overcome. So that's just that's why I love this concern in particular. I get it more often than any other concern. And so with that, whatever concerns you're getting more often than any other, that's the ones you need to embrace and be happy for and figure out a way to overcome. Now, as far as content and channel, this is if they're concerned about getting a particular channel that they don't want their kids to have. This is the thing that's great about this is you can definitely show empathy. I know how you feel. My mom felt the same way. Something along those lines. And then what you can say is, look, one of the biggest reasons people get a satellite dish, so you take that concern, move it over, is because with a satellite you can control exactly what you watch. You can control content. You can control rating. You can also control channels. So if you don't want your kids to watch a particular channel, maybe MTV or something like that, you can lock out that channel altogether. If you don't want them to watch anything that's rated PG-13 or R or above, you can lock out anything that comes on with that particular rating. Or you can lock out according to content. So if you don't want anything that comes on with violence or nudity or something like that, then you can control that with a dish. Cable cannot offer that. And so, and if they do, it is not as sure or as safe as a satellite TV. So this definitely becomes a reason for someone to get it, whereas a lot of times they still have the misconceptions like back in the old days when satellites got everything that was out there, and they don't want their kids to be exposed to that. Great, you don't have to. In fact, you have more control over what your kids are watching now with a satellite than you have with cable. A dislike of TV in general. Normally this happens when you're talking to someone, they go, you know, I'm just not interested, I don't like TV, this doesn't interest me at all. The thing that's fun about this concern is that you can actually turn this around and say, you know, that's exactly why you should get it. In fact, if you can't think of a quick response to any particular concern that someone gives you that maybe aren't up here, but they just throw something out, just try this. That's exactly why you should get this. And then while they go, why? Come up with something really quick as to how to overcome that. So for example, if they say, I just don't like TV, you know, that's why you should get a TiVo system. Why? Well, do you have cable? Are you getting cable right now? Yes, I'm getting cable. Okay, well, you're paying something for it. Obviously, it's worth, whatever you don't like, it's worth paying something for. So why not save money? You can use the money to sell that. Or the DVR is my favorite way to overcome that because it literally cuts the time you watch TV in half. Think about what people want to add to their lives that the DVR can help them with. I mean, take commercials out of your life. With me, I like to read. So if I take, if I'm going to watch a program, I've gotten into the habit where I just pause it for a half hour and read a book. If the book is you know, captures me and I want to keep on reading, then I'll read for an hour or two. And then I'll come and watch that program, skip all the commercials. And it's amazing what you can do in your life when you just take commercials out of it. All the stuff that you can add into your life if you just get rid of commercials alone. And so, you know, there are definitely reasons why people want to get this. You know, someone, well, I just watch TV for the news. Great. Are you tired of watching Celebrex and Viagra commercials? Because every single news channel, they cater to senior citizens. And so all you see is prescription drug commercials all over the place. And so what you do, you just pause it. Do something better with your life. Clean the house, read a book, help a child, do something. And then come back and watch the program in half the time. And so if someone says, I don't like TV, great. That's the exact reason why you should get it. And then the number of TVs. Now this A lot of times this is actually a legit concern or not. In the past, satellite TV you could only get like one TV hooked up on it, or all of your TVs would be watching the same program. Obviously, we can hook up 4 different TVs with 4 different independent pictures and so forth, so it doesn't really matter. However, make sure though that you're just not tossing that concern away and not saying the if-then. Well, if you could get all of your TVs hooked up, you know, they say, well, I have too many TVs. How many TVs do you use? We use 4. Okay, well, if you could hook up all 4, then would you want to get a satellite dish? And if they say, well, yeah, if you could do that, well, and then you go into and start explaining the promotion a little bit better and help them understand that they can get all 4 TVs hooked up. Well, if that's the case, use that as an advantage. But sometimes people have more than 4 TVs. What do you do in that case? Well, with the technology of the DVR, or I should say the dual tuner, what happens is you can actually, let's say this is their 3rd, 4th, and 5th television. Okay, so 3rd, 4th, and 5th. They've got these TVs. You can put a box right here, and normally you'd say, now do you watch all of these channels, all of these TVs independent, like you have people in little corners all over your house watching different channels all at the same time? Most of the time that's not the case. So what you do is you put a DVR here, and this is watching its own channel, and then you have these TVs, it goes through a splitter. And these are both watching the same channel. It has a remote control. The DVR, or the 522 or 322, comes with an additional remote that has a UHF. It's a radio signal remote. So they can walk into this room with their remote control, change the channel. They can walk into that room and change the channel. It's just that these two, the 4th and 5th TV, are going to be watching the same channel. Normally people don't have a great number of people in their home that are watching different channels all at the same time. And so you can overcome that concern. And most of the time, you don't run into someone that has over 4 televisions. But if they do, this is a very easy way to overcome that concern if it'll work for them. If it doesn't, if they have a home full of a bunch of renters and all of them need their own TV in their own room and it's more than 4 TVs, it might be better for them not to get it. So anyway, these are basically the concerns that you got to get good at overcoming, or at least acknowledging and understanding the customer and becoming a consultant and helping them make a buying decision. But if you understand what you're going to hit before you even get out there, great. It's just like being in the huddle of the opposing team, coming back to your defense and saying they're going to run this play. You understand what's coming at you before it even comes. And that's the power of understanding the law of 6 major concerns in any industry.